I'm here with my friend Rael Klein from Nozzle, and today we're going to be talking about remarketing to your customers. So the big thing, especially on Amazon, is we don't really know a lot about our customers. We aren't really sure how much it costs to actually acquire that customer. We aren't sure how much more money we should spend. How do we even remarket to customers that have bought from us? And which of our ASINs, which of our products or our SKUs are the best for doing that, right? Are actually that actually have that growth potential. So that's what we're going to get into today. And I'm so excited to have Rael showing us this really cool tool that's going to allow us to have unique insights into customer acquisition and remarketing and retargeting and growth of an ASIN. So welcome, Rael. It's so great to have you.
It's brilliant to be here. Thanks so much for having me, Amy.
Yes, no problem. I mean, I love having people on the show that have cool, innovative tools that it's amazing to me how many cool tools are out there that I don't even know about. And then I discover them and I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I need for this. So I love that. So tell me, what's your background? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so it's probably quite a different background, I guess, to a lot of people in the Amazon ecosystem. I guess depending on how far back you want to go, but my background is actually originally in finance. So I was doing all sort of financy things and trading and all those sorts of things. But really, sort of 2013 is when I got into online advertising specifically. And this was really interesting because behind the scenes in the online ad world, computer algorithms are basically buying and selling in real time the ad space, right? There's an auction and a winner's ad gets chosen. So I started a company in 2013 that basically built custom algorithms for buyers and sellers. And so I sold that company about 3 years ago now. And really the big takeaway for me on that whole business was really those who succeeded were the ones that were most interested in tracking the entire journey. And so, I would be showing ads to people. Do they download? Do they install the app, for instance? But actually, I'm more interested in what happens afterwards. What happens after 2 days, 10 days, 6 months later? And how profitable is that customer? And so if I can track what's happening from the first ad they see, the third ad they see, to the moment they download, to 6 months later when they've then spent $50 or whatever it is, then I've got all the data I need to make really, really transformational decisions around what we view as the fundamental equation of the business, which is how profitable is your customer, and therefore how much can you spend to acquire a customer. And so when we exited that business, where else can we apply this principle? And you quickly land on Amazon, really, because for a number of reasons. Amazon's kind of a closed ecosystem. They've got the advertising piece and they've got all the data that happens after the transaction. And they've got all the APIs, meaning as a technology provider, we can obviously hook into the Amazon data in a programmatic or automated way, and provide the tools for sellers to do. Seen when using this sort of technique and really understanding your customers. So yeah, we set about building Nozzle about 2 years ago with the idea of understanding your customer, because against a backdrop right now for Amazon sellers where there are a lot of pressures, it's very difficult. It's becoming much, much more difficult to be successful. Some of those things are, I guess, macroeconomic type things around supply chains and inflation and all those sort of things. But some of them are just Amazon related things as well, where referral fees are increasing for some categories in some markets and things like that. And so this idea of building a brand becomes really, really fundamental. And for us, one of the best ways to measure whether you have a brand, I mean, there are tons of ways of measuring, but for us, it's about loyal customers, right? And so figuring out what people do after that first purchase. Do they come back? Do they buy the same thing? How long does it take? How do I remarket to them? That's really the cornerstone of what Nozzle's about.
I love it. I'm so excited. You have this really cool, what did you say, 5-step process that you use that you're going to be walking us through today to kind of help us understand the data, first of all, how we sift through it, and what of our products, how much it's costing us to acquire a customer, as well as what of our products have the most growth potential. So,
Yeah.
then how to execute that growth, right? So, without further ado, should we dig right in?
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm just gonna share my screen, so hopefully you can see all of that.
Yeah, I
See all
can
that?
see it. Looks great.
Yeah, so our tool is mostly focused on when you're thinking about remarketing. I'm not going to focus on the details, I guess, of perhaps on the advertising side of how to set up your campaigns and things like that, because really most of the work is beforehand, right? Most of the work is identifying which products you should be focused on, and really figuring out how much are you prepared to spend, how much incremental spend you should do it, where should you be doing it, is it Amazon's DSP, is it sponsored display? And so kind of that planning and sort of data-driven process is where we focus on. If you want to log into Amazon advertising or whatever your favorite tool is to go and execute, we can talk about that as well. But really this tool is focused on all the work beforehand, right? The heavy lifting beforehand. So yeah, I mean, let me talk through the process here. I mean, we've obviously got. I mean, this is our tool. This is the Nozzle tool. A bit of background about this. Firstly, when you connect your Amazon account to Nozzle, as with every other tool provider, we can go back 2 full years and get the data. And so when we're showing you the numbers or telling you, this is kind of the long-term average or these are the trends, it's really based off a very decent data set, right? It's really robust. The second thing is, ideally, you want to be doing these things, these analyses at an individual ASIN level, or at least a parent ASIN level. Clearly, if you've got 1,000 or a few thousand ASINs, it can be kind of quite difficult to do that. So you might want to do that at a category level. But I guess best case scenario, of course, is to be the most granular possible, which is child ASIN, but time constraints, everything else might say otherwise. But really, the thought process for us is, and I'll walk you through kind of the different steps here, but just very briefly, we would start at a point that says, okay, for every individual ASIN, what percentage of the sales for this ASIN are coming from one-off customers versus repeat customers, right? If I've got 2 or 3 ASINs where 60% of all the sales are coming from repeats, that's an amazing starting point, right? You can do a lot with that. You've got a product that's just naturally got a good customer retention rate. You can probably afford to put in a lot more cash in acquiring customers, new to brand, and shifting your ad strategies to be a lot more new to brand, for instance. So yeah, figuring out what's the sales split between one-off and repeat is a good place to start. Then we would go into something like this idea of profit per customer or customer lifetime value. And really, this is a fundamental metric for us. And this will say, what is the total profit of the customer over the entire duration you have a relationship with that customer? So let's say, for instance, in 12 months, a customer comes in once and buys something. They come in 3 months later, they buy a different product, let's say even. They come in 6 months after that and buy the third product. And so you're actually adding up the total cumulative profit over that period. And why that is such an important number is that will tell you how much you can afford to pay to acquire a new customer. So if I make a total profit, let's say over 12 months, over 3 purchases of $25 per customer, that means I can spend up to $25 acquiring a new to brand customer if I want to break even in those 12 months. And so, you're kind of shifting the mindset here away from, I guess, an ACOS, which is always focused on that very first purchase, right? I need to break even on that first purchase. And we're saying, you don't have to do that. If people just come back and keep buying over and over again, you've actually got a lot more flexibility. If you're prepared to wait even just 3 months when they've made their purchase again, that can give you a big upper hand in your PPC campaigns, for instance, right? Your competitors perhaps are not doing this sort of calculation. You can now afford the higher CPCs and go after higher volume search terms, all those sorts of things, to differentiate yourself from your competitors. So yeah, the lifetime value and the customer acquisition cost side, we would definitely go and check those things.
So I think
Yeah,
the biggest question that any seller would have, and I'm sure we're going to get into a little bit of this,
yeah,
but I mean, isn't it is it better to obviously Nozzle may be focused more on subscribe and save type of products? Is that fair? Or maybe we're opening up those opportunities for subscribe and save. But
yeah,
besides subscribe and save, are there other ways that we don't necessarily have to pay for ads? Like if we identify
sure.
those products that are repeat purchases,
Yeah,
I'm sure we can also design our next round of packaging. So let's say we identify it, we get through
totally.
our orders, we're doing well, we've identified which ones our repeat customers are buying. We can alter our packaging and our inserts to also
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, encourage people, or even do like mailing type of things to reach back out to people
Absolutely.
after a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So absolutely, like how you would increase your customer lifetime value or or your customer retention rate. Absolutely, advertising is clearly one way to do that, and then via obviously terms of service compliant, but ways in the packaging to get people to buy that second time. And we've got some super interesting data on that. I don't want to kind of reveal it now, but like what impact that can actually make. Trying to getting people to buy that second time is honestly, if there's like one takeaway from this entire session, is what a huge impact it makes getting people to buy that second time, because the chances of them then buying, the third time and the fourth time and everything else go up so much. But I'll share that for later on, and it really does fundamentally change your business if you're able to do that. But as I say, I don't want to jump ahead too much.
so the first step is,
Yeah,
just to recap, the first step is
yeah,
really identifying
yeah,
which of those products we have, multiple purchases of
yeah.
versus
So
new to brand customers.
yeah, absolutely. So if you look at this at the screen here, it's a chart like this, which will basically say, okay, for this particular product, over the last 2 years, 26% of all sales have come from repeats, and 74 have come from one-off or new customers. Right? That's not particularly great. You want to look for something that's perhaps at least 40%. Like this would be a really good candidate here. You've got over 50% of all sales are coming from repeat customers, and this is a great starting point to dig a little bit deeper into into the other metrics around profit per customer, and all those sort of other things to see whether this is something worth really pushing at the end of the day. We can over here judge the month on month increase in repeats versus new to brand. So for every month, how many one-off buyers bought from me in that month versus my overall repeats, and is that repeat base growing over time? So if I have a very deliberate strategy of trying to increase my repeat base, is that working? I mean, it's interesting what you were saying around the subscribe and save, and what we've seen in the data is using subscribe and save as a proxy for repeats is actually a very, very weak signal. There are a huge chunk of people that are repeat buyers that do not subscribe and save. I'm one of them, right? Like I repeat buy, I don't know, 7, 8 products on Amazon. I don't
Yes, I
subscribe
do
and
that
save
all
to
the
any of
time
them.
too, because I don't want to manage subscribe and save all the
Yeah,
time. I'd rather
exactly.
even pay a
And
little
I have
bit
a weird,
more.
yeah, and I have a weird cadence, right? I've got like 2 kids and I don't know, stuff, whatever it is, just like unpredictable, basically, right? And so what we've seen is in a lot of cases, like as an outlier, our top customer subscribe and save base is probably 60% of the whole repeat base is subscribe and save. But on the bottom end, honestly, we've got phenomenal products and with extremely high repeat order rates, where the subscribe and save base is like 5 to 10% of that. And so I wouldn't. It's not that I wouldn't pay so much attention to subscribe and save, or it's overrated or anything, but be aware that most of the time, most of the repeat orders are not subscribe and save, and it's the journey for people to repeat buy is that they log into the Amazon account, typically on mobile even. They go into the order history and it has a buy again button, right? And it's actually just sort of a, I don't know, 7-second process to go and do that. And it obviously means that you're not showing someone an ad, right? They're not searching and clicking on an ad. You don't have to pay for them to make that second, third, fourth purchase. They're just sort of organically doing that via their order history. And so that's why using this repeat customer is such an important and powerful growth lever ultimately. So yeah, I mean, just working through this tool, instantly we'd pick out, this is a really good candidate. Anything from like, I don't know, 40%, we would take another look at, right, and go a bit deeper. So we're saying, cool, that's a really good candidate. This over here is quite interesting. This is saying how many times on average is an ASIN actually bought by an individual customer. And so we've honestly, I mean, this is a demo. It's probably not the best, not the best demo, because I've seen numbers that are like 5 and 6. But this is on average, right? So remember, like, there are a whole bunch of people that are obviously just going to buy once, but they're going to be people that drag that average all the way up to 5 or 6. And so why this is also so important is you'll have your, say, break-even ACOS. But that assumes somebody's just buying once, right? If we have a number like this, which is 1.5 times, let's say, you can adjust that break-even ACOS up by 50%, right? You can times it by 1.5 and say, okay, actually, that is how much, that's my new break-even ACOS. And when you've got really powerful products that are sitting in the sort of 3 to 6 range, timesing your break-even ACOS by 3 to 6 it makes a huge difference. We've got customers that have a break-even ACOS of like 200-300%. Right. And if they know that if they just wait 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is, that's all going to pay off. That investment's going to pay off. I
think it's really cool here too. Like, if you have something that's at a 1.5x, you could definitely put some more attention to how can I encourage that customer to buy again. Clearly, this is a candidate for this. Yeah. How can I improve that even more? So for me, knowing the customer that buys cat food on a regular basis, I would probably offer them a coupon code off of their next Amazon purchase, but I would probably collect their email and send them a reminder so that they don't have to hold on to that coupon code for 2 months. I'd say, sign up, we'll send you 10% off your next purchase, and we'll send you a reminder of when it's time to, when you're 60 days, if the supply is for 60 days or whatever.
Yeah, and I love that point on sort of the 60 days. I've got another tab, which I'll show you very shortly, to actually tell you when the optimum time is to do that, right? Like, yeah, sure, for some products, it's pretty obvious. I sell a 30-day supply of supplements, and would you believe it? People buy after 30 days, right? Like, but for a lot of products, it's not clear. A lot of health and beauty, face cream, or I don't know, whatever it is. It's people will repeat buy, but it's really not clear.
It might be 3, 4, 6 months before that happens. And how can you encourage them to do that, as well as offer them some type of value or reminder as well, and get them on your email list at the same time? Like,
all of those
what an
things.
easy way to do things. So
totally.
Cool.
So another way of checking this out is what we call customer retention rate. So this is basically measuring, okay, I've had 420,804 people buy the product from me, right, over the last 2 years. And I've had 57,000 people, 289, buy it twice, or at least twice. And so really which is 14%. So my customer retention rate from the first to the second purchase is 14%. Now, this is also such a key metric, where this is what I wanted to share with you earlier. We did a study to see what is the impact if I can increase that retention rate just by 1 percentage point, right? 14 to 15% or 15 to 16%, just 1 percentage point. What does that mean for profits? Actual, not revenue, not sales, profits. And it actually came out, I mean, it surprised us, to be honest. It came out that a 1 percentage point increase, so 14 to 15%, actually can result in a 7% increase in profits, right? Because, yes, you're going up 1 percentage point, but actually some of those people are going to buy 3 times, and some of those people are going to buy 4 times, and some of those people are going to buy 5 times, right? And so when you run through the math and model all of that out, it is, as I said, if there's one thing that people take away from this session, it is the impact of getting people to buy twice. Because if you look at what happens from the second to the third, you've noticed that it's actually 28%. It's doubled from that 14%. Now, this is a demo. Clearly the numbers are made up, but they're not sort of, just got out of thin air, right? Like these are the numbers that we regularly see when we work with our customers. And so roughly speaking, from the second to the third purchase is a doubling of the retention rate from the first to the second purchase. And so that is why the remarketing, all the coupons, everything you can do to get people to buy twice is just so worth it, because the chances of them buying 3 times are double from the first to the second purchase. And modeling that out from a profit point of view results in a 7% increase in profits. So yeah, that is the impact on that. And we've seen transformational results just off the back of that. I mean, they're not going to be immediate, right? Like this is a strategic tool, strategic planning, and it requires a bit of patience and all that sort of stuff. But if you're in for the medium to long haul, and you want to build a much healthier business, in this sort of environment, then like this is straight out of our playbook. We do this kind of with everybody.
Right. I love it. I think it's very important for us to understand kind of how much it's costing us. The average order value is really good. I like the way the data is presented, because of course we can get some of this data from Amazon, but it's all in different places and it's very hard to kind of
and Amazon so I can speak for ages about all that, but there are some issues with the data. So some of this you can't actually get at least from like brand analytics and stuff. So the issue with brand analytics, they will give you what is, I guess, a repeat order rate for an individual ASIN. So that is different from a customer repeat order rate, because what happens if a customer first buys ASIN A, but then goes and buys ASIN B, right? That's not going to show up in Amazon's numbers, right? Because it's an ASIN repeat order rate. It's how many times are they buying the same thing over and over again. And so it really misses out a whole group of people that don't buy the same thing, right? And so it actually misses out that entire thing. And doing things on a customer level is really where the gold is, rather than sort of individual product level data. I mean, it's obviously still useful, of course, but the real good stuff is at the customer level. The other thing is the idea of new to brand. So Amazon has an inconsistent definition of what new to brand actually means, right? And so Amazon's DSP, for instance, at least last time I checked, was a rolling 12-month definition, meaning, have I seen this person? Have they bought from me in the previous 12 months? If not, they're going to be new to brand.
Right.
In brand analytics, it could be something like a quarterly definition. So have they bought from me in the last quarter? If not, they're new to brand. And so it just doesn't fit right? And in this tool, we have a super strict definition, which is literally, have we seen this person before ever? If not, they're going to be new to brand. So yeah, I mean, it's a little bit a detour into kind of the weeds of like the Amazon data and definitions and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it can be stuff if you're doing things at a customer level, that is genuinely the best way to go about it, if you can. So this is the retention rate. The one on the right here, I'm not going to spend too much time on, but another way of measuring retention rate is how many people buy within a certain time period, right? So for instance, at the bottom, we've got a 30-day retention rate. If you're selling a product, a 30-day supply of supplements, this is actually pretty good. How many people buy again within 30 days, right? And is that increasing or decreasing? So my retention rate's actually increasing in January. That's great. People who bought in December, a higher number of them bought again in January, and I'm doing something right there. Maybe I'm running one of these coupon campaigns that you suggested a little bit earlier, or my remarketing campaigns, and I actually do see an uplift in the retention, the 30-day retention rate. So I know something's working, right? And so this is a nice way to check whether the actions you've taken on the remarketing side or the coupon side are actually resulting in an uplift in that retention rate.
Got it.
The next one is the time lag. So this is what I referred to a little bit earlier, where when is the optimal time to do this? When are people actually buying again? And I've filtered in this example, I filtered like for one particular ASIN, but I've also filtered from that, just show me what the journey's like from the first to that second purchase, because as I've said so many times, that is the main thing that matters. You can do this for all of the repeat orders, but really first and the seconds are the ones that matters. And so what's going on here is saying, of the people who bought twice, 6 0.25% did it from days 8 to 15. And 6.25 did it from days 16 to 30, and 31% of people did it from days 31 to 60. And so when you're thinking about when to run your remarketing campaigns or when to re-engage with someone, the majority of people are going to be doing it from days 30 to 60, right? And the line chart is just saying it's the cumulative number. So we're saying, let's do this one. We're saying after 120 days, half the people that would have bought again from you have already done so after 120 days. And so really, if you're thinking of running a remarketing campaign, it's quite a lot of diminishing returns, right? Doing it. I mean, we often see numbers that after 90 days, 3/4 of the people have bought already. And so there's no real point in trying to do remarketing after 90 days. There's real diminishing returns. So really, you should concentrate your spend from days 30 to 60, because that's when you're going to capture 3/4 of all the repurchases, basically. And so that's just thinking about when to run and sequence those campaigns and any sort of, I guess, re-engagement that you want.
And that's really a marketing fundamental, because there's so many people that are always trying to get new customers instead of focusing on the people who are already trusting that brand and spending money with them. I think what Neil Patel said something about how retargeting or remarketing was one of the biggest missed opportunities in sales.
So I love this because I guess I originally wasn't a bit of a detour, if you don't mind. Again, I wasn't really going to show this, but this is super interesting for us. So what this dashboard is doing is basically comparing two time periods from one another, right? So if I want to, one of the biggest questions we get is if I'm running any type of like discount or coupon, am I just giving coupons to people who would have bought already, like existing customers that would have bought at full price, but now I'm just giving them a discount, right? What's the effect of that? Like, is it actually pretty detrimental? And so we set about answering this question. And so what we've done here, and I've just picked, Prime Day. I mean, you can enter whatever date you like, but let's just say Prime Day, right? So how we've broken up the customers who buy from you on Prime Day are threefold. There's actual new to brand customers, which is kind of what you want, right? Like, that's a good thing. There's what we call repeat orders. So these are people that have bought from you in the last 6 months. If they're buying from you on a discount, that's not a good thing, right? They probably would have bought at full price anyway. And then there's this third bucket. These are the customers that haven't bought from you in 6 months. So you could argue that they are churned customers, right? You basically lost them as a customer, but they bought from you again on Prime Day, right? And so this is a super valuable segment because of this column here. So what happens after 90 days after Prime Day? What is the customer retention rate? So for the new to brand customers, 9.3%. That's kind of maybe a bit below average. The reactivated customers, 14%. And the repeat orders high, as you would expect, right? They were going to buy from you. They were customers before. They were customers on Prime Day. They're going to stick around after Prime Day. But the super interesting thing here is so again, this is a demo, but this is absolutely modeled off the numbers that we see. So
so interesting.
Yeah, a reactivated
people are always
customer.
Wondering, should I run a Prime Day deal? Should I run a Lightning deal? What should I be doing, right?
Yeah. So a reactivated customer is worth much more than a new to brand customer, especially on these like Prime Day sort of big event type things. Now, obviously, there aren't that many reactivated customers, right? But it does mean that your strategy on these days should be, a remarketing campaign in the lead up to Prime Day for people that have churned, right? For people that haven't bought from you in the last 6 months, warm them up. And when you hit them with, the deal on Prime Day, they are more likely to buy than a new to brand because they obviously, have used you before and recognize your brand and all that. And they stick around a lot more than new to brand customers. So yeah, to Neil Patel's point around the remarketing or this idea of trying to get like the reactivated customer, it's much easier to reconvert them than it is to get a new to brand customer, and they stick around for longer, right? Your retention rate is just better.
Yeah, I think, it just puts it out there that Amazon is a long game. A lot of people,
Yeah.
they expect to make that money right away, but you do make the money in the long game when
Absolutely,
people
have
get
to.
to know your brand.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many great products I've bought on Amazon that I went to buy another one of that same thing for a friend and the brand's gone. They're like fly by night,
Wow.
right? So if you have one of those longer sticking brands that that can stand the test of time and understands how to remarket, man, you're going to win the game. But you have to remember it is a long game.
It's a long game. It's a long game, and that's why this tool is going to get you really, really good results. We've had amazing results. We've won awards for our results, but it sure as hell is not a quick fix.
Got it. All right. Well, what else do you have to show us?
Yeah. So the main, we keep talking about this profit per customer or lifetime value and the customer acquisition cost. And really, I know this is 200 data points on a page is maybe not the best layout, but I mean, what this is basically doing is telling me what is the evolution of the customer of the profit per customer over time. So I mean, I'm doing this. I mean, for demo purposes, I'm doing this like at an account level. But again, you can select an individual ASIN. Ideally, you want to be doing all of this on an individual ASIN level. But what it's saying is, on average, I make $3.83 profit on the first purchase. That grows to nearly $4.50 after 3 months, $5 after 6, and $6 after 12. And if you look at the difference between, it's almost a doubling, not quite, but it's nearly a doubling if you just, wait 12 months. And why this is so powerful is you can see what happens to your break-even A costs, right? If you just wait a little bit longer. It starts off at 20%, it goes to 24, goes to 27, goes to 34. And that just gives you so much more freedom when thinking about your PPC strategy. As I said, you can go after higher CPC terms, much higher volume category terms that possibly were out of reach beforehand, safe in the knowledge that I'm going to break even after 3 months or whatever it is. There's definitely a caveat with this. Sorry, I just need a bit of water. There's definitely a caveat here, which is quite rightly, a lot of sellers will say to us, well, it's all very well, Nozzle telling us, I have a profit per customer of like $100 if I wait 12 months, but I'm going to run out of money before I reach that point, right? I can't afford to wait. I can't afford to wait 12 months, right? And that's completely valid. Generally for us, we'll almost always start off by just optimizing for a 3 month, right? It's not that harsh on your cash flows, and it already gives you quite a lot of leeway to be a lot more flexible on the sort of search terms or how aggressive you want to be on your PPC, and go and prove that out, right? So go run an experiment where you choose some of these terms, you change up your search strategy, you're a bit more aggressive, and you can wait 3 months to break even, see how well that you broke even on those cohorts, and your market shares increase, whatever it is, whatever your key metrics are, then sure, maybe you want to adjust that to 6 months. But you really should almost always just start with the 3 months. It's a good compromise between, getting used to the concept, testing it out. There's not too much at stake. Probably don't even do this for your hero ASIN, right? It's too risky. Go take like a nice mid-level particular ASIN that you're going to have meaningful numbers to do with it, but obviously don't put your business at risk with some sort of hero ASIN kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the practical elements of all of that. And crucially, you want to be comparing this to how much you're currently paying to acquire a customer, right? And so it's always two sides of the same coin, which is, what is my profit per customer? How much am I spending to acquire a customer, right? One answers the other. And so that's what basically this customer acquisition cost, this CAC column is. And so you can see here where, excuse me, you can see how much am I paying every month to acquire a particular customer. So you can see, for instance, over here in January 21, I'm paying $5.31, and really on average, I'm probably going to, in this case, I'm going to be waiting 6 months to break even. Now, that may or may not be part of your strategy, but that's just how you would interpret the data and set your targets. And so routinely, what we would be doing is saying, okay, my target is a 3 month break even, right, on my profit per customer, my lifetime value. And so I really don't want to be spending more than $4.50 acquiring a customer. And so when I set my targets, and that translates to a 24% break-even ACOS. And so when I run my PPC campaigns, those are the numbers that I'm actually tracking against. So yeah, that's really kind of the fundamental, almost a North Star metric. Now, clearly, this all presupposes that you have a product that people want to repeat buy, and all of that sort of stuff. But
But
when
if
we
you
work with
do have one of those products, this data is so fundamental to growing your business. I mean, it's the stuff that moves the needle, right? And that's really clear. Is like, okay, what can I do to increase that even more? Is my packaging right? Are my remarketing efforts working? These are the metrics that you can track to see what you should be doing and whether what you're doing is working well.
Yeah, exactly. It's the planning. So it's the planning side of it, like identifying which of your ASINs are worth investing in, right? Which have good potential. And one of the big things we'll do is the gap between your lifetime value and your customer acquisition cost. If, for instance, the gap, my profit per customer after 3 months is $10, and it's really only costing me $3 to acquire a customer, that gap of $7 is huge. I mean, I can, spend 2.5 times what I'm currently doing to acquire a customer and still break even in 3 months. And so sorting your ASINs according to the gap between the profit per customer and the acquisition cost, and ordering them from the biggest to the smallest, that's something we'll do as well. And then that's just a good prioritization for you to say, like, hey, I've got so much room on these ASINs to acquire, to be more aggressive acquiring people. So as long as I don't foresee any stock issues, it's got reviews, it's got good ratings, all that sort of stuff, just like kind of the sense check stuff. Then for me, that's an obvious place to start as well. So that's part of our growth process, I guess, that we go through with customers. One other thing I wanted to show, this isn't I guess crucial to the plan, but it's interesting to know what we call the purchase journey of a customer. So we can go 4 orders deep. And so what is it that people, so someone comes in and buys product A, when they come and buy again, are they buying product A again? Are they buying product B? Is it a variation? Are they hopping across categories? And this is really interesting because this helps you any cross-selling and upselling and trial conversions. So previously, it's been really, really difficult. If I'm running a trial version of my product, I'll give you 2 examples. We work with one customer where they were selling 6-pack drinks and 12-pack drinks. They make no money off the 6-pack. It's just meant to, introduce people to the brand. And of course, the hope is they come back and buy 12-pack drinks, right? Where you'd make your money. And we did this chart for them. And it turns out people who buy 6-pack drinks either don't buy again from them or carry on buying 6-pack drinks, right? It's not working. And so scrap that, right? On the other hand, we've had a pet customer, a pet food, where they have a trial version of their product. It only lasts, 4 or 5 days. And the 28% of the people who first buy their trial product will go buy the full version. And for them, that's great, right? They're more than break even on that. And so that's working really, really well. So that's the trial conversion. This example here, so, people who first buy, this is an individual ASIN view. So people who first buy this product, you can see in this example, 47% of those people will go buy the same ASIN again, right, as their second purchase. It's not that it's necessarily good or bad. It just depends on what your strategy is. I mean, maybe it's like if someone's buying, supplements from you, especially supplements, we've seen this. People just tend to buy the same thing over and over again, right? They're not really hopping across. The only thing they might do is go from like a 30-day supply to a 60 or a 90-day supply, which is great, and this can measure it. But they're not really hopping across different supplements or different, I don't know, flavors of shakes or stuff like that. Like that's pretty there. But if you're health and beauty, we've seen quite a lot of journeys like this, which is people actually hopping across categories, right? They're starting off on face cream, and then in this case 11% of people go and buy a hand cream or whatever it is. And if you want to increase that, then again, this speaks back to the remarketing campaigns, right? You can go run sponsored display ads. You can go run, all sorts of ads targeting your own ASINs, encouraging that upsell, right? And at the same time, you're doing a brand defense campaign, right? So you're stopping competitors advertising on your product, but you're also promoting your own products with a much higher probability of people doing it because you know what people's behavior actually is.
Now, are you actually comparing this to my competitors' products in this chart? Or
No,
are you
no. So this is
just my
your
SKUs
own
across
ASINs,
the board, for example?
Yeah. It's only going to
Okay,
be
got it.
it's only
And
going
this
to be
could
for your
help
own
me
ASINs.
understand whether to offer, like you said, a 6-pack of drinks. If that discouraged people from buying again, then, or a 1-pack or a 2-pack. I mean, this will be really helpful for me because right now I'm making multi-packs of some of my products.
Yeah.
And, it's, you don't know if, this morning I was on a coaching call and we were talking about whether to launch a 2-pack as a differentiation of a specific product. And, it's helpful to know if people actually, buy that. If people, and then you could try the trial sizes and stuff and kind of go from there and grow it as you will.
Exactly. And we've had cases where people would buy 2 30-day supplies over a 60-day supply. And it's like, okay, I don't really know what's going on. Like, why would you do that? It's kind of cheaper per unit if you do, and we've had it the other way around. So, or if you're thinking about whether to even have a 60-day supply, the fact that there's a decent number of people that are buying 2 30-day supplies for their second order tells you that you should think about doing a 60-day version.
Got it. So we're mastering overall, not just remarketing, but also how to sell our products, where to focus, where our growth potential is. Really, this is the tool for consumables, foods, any product that is a good potential for repeat purchases.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's if you're selling on D2C as well, a lot of sellers will already be doing some things like this, I guess, but generally in the Amazon space, it's much tougher to do basically, and that's clearly where we come in there. But a lot of these, I guess, techniques. Look, I mean, Amazon certainly doesn't have a lot of the tools that you would have on D2C, right, or Shopify or whatever it is. You don't have the abandoned cart tools. You don't have kind of the email campaigns. Although interestingly, the customer engagement tool, email campaign tool on Amazon, right? Like that is super, super interesting to us. Now, it's very, very basic right now. You can only send an email to your followers, right? I mean, ultimately for us, it's kind of like, well, if you could do this on people who've bought from you before, as opposed to just followers, then it can become really useful with this data, because we can say, we can recommend that, 11% of people who bought this product went and bought this other product, set up an email campaign and get them to try and buy that, right? That's just a natural journey. Or we can say things like, people usually buy a 30-day supply, then a 30-day supply, followed by a 90-day supply. So then go set up a campaign that, after 2 purchases, try upsell them to the 90-day version. So we're watching that customer engagement tool and that email tool very, very closely to see where that goes. It's very early days for that, but if they build that out and add more use cases together with this data, then I think that can certainly make a huge difference.
Very cool. I like it. So anything else to show us?
No, I think those are kind of the main things. I mean, those are kind of the main use cases. I mean, really, as I say, the takeaway, just to kind of recap our process there, we would start by looking at, let me just go there. You would start by looking at, okay, of all my ASINs, which ones have repeats out of a percentage of total sales? Repeat sales are at least sort of 40% and above. Those are really good candidates to think about paying more attention to and investing in. We would also look at the profit per customer and the gap between the profit per customer and how much I'm paying to acquire a customer. And the bigger that gap, the bigger the opportunity, right? I mean, the bigger the gap between my profit and how much I'm paying, that's a really good opportunity. I would then also look at, say, your customer retention rates and say, okay, maybe this is, 10, 12%. I can really get that. what we generally see, most of them are going to be between 20 and 30% on customer retention rates from probably the second to the third purchase. So that's where I should be aiming. And then, yeah, we would say, go look at this to think about when you want to be remarketing. And ultimately, the two main things that you would be doing would be on the remarketing side, either via Amazon's DSP or sponsored display campaigns to set up. You can actually set up these campaigns to say people who have bought from you within X many days, as a targeting rule. And so that's one angle. And the other one, of course, is kind of the coupons, right? And I can't stress enough how important it is trying to get people to buy that second time. And so this is how we would prioritize the ASINs, and probably prove it out with like 2-3 ASINs, not the hero ASINs to begin with. And then once you've seen this work a few times, prove it out, because you might have to convince other people in the business. It's a different way of thinking, for instance, right? So once you've proved it out, then you can think about maybe applying it to the more material ASINs.
Got it. Well, very cool. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Rael, and for sharing this with us and helping us understand. I put our special offer. You guys can go to amazingathome.com/resources, and you can click on the Nozzle icon there, and you'll see Nozzle has created a special offer for you guys that actually expires soon. So make sure that you take advantage of that now before it expires. And just thank you so much for teaching us today. For those of you guys considering consumables or any products that are being bought again and again, like I actually didn't expect my product, my litter box cleaner product, to be purchased a lot, but people actually purchase more than when they buy one, and then they come back and they buy more. So you never know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's an area that's kind of very unexplored within Amazon. And I mean, I totally realize that the session that I've had with you here, like, I've just sort of dumped a whole lot of stuff, right? Numbers and data and charts and all that kind of stuff. But it really is just going back to the basics in many ways, where you're changing your mindset from being so focused on that first purchase is the only thing that matters, to thinking more strategically, more long term, around your most loyal customers. And that's how you build a brand. And this is the data sets to help you make some of those decisions.
Amazing. Well, thank you again for being here. And thanks everybody for listening. We will be back in 1 hour on the Seller Roundtable podcast today. We will have, who's on the show today? Let me check. Today, we do have I don't have somebody booked today on the show. So we will follow up and see what that is going on. But we should be back with Seller Roundtable in 1 hour. And we'll see you guys then. Thank you so much for rating, reviewing, subscribing. Thanks for all the likes. I appreciate you guys so much. And thanks again, Rael, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.